watching the Kansas City Chiefs. How do they respond against, guess who, the Detroit Lions? They just we all watched them lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're up 14-0 and lost that game. Some of us at this desk went to bed. Some of us did not for that game. But I'm curious how the Chiefs will respond, particularly offensively. I just think they seem to be a mess right now when we thought that they would found their way.
Can they go toe-to-toe with the high-flying Lions? Lewis, what are you watching in Week 6?
I'm watching the other team from that matchup the other night, the Jaguars, at home against Seattle, coming all the way across the country. How does Trevor Lawrence and this group respond to prosperity, to now that people are talking about them like, hey, maybe they will win the South. Maybe they will take the crown from Indianapolis. Maybe Trevor Lawrence has arrived. Well, now you get to show up, because this is where you need to stack another good performance on top of the one you just had, especially at the end of the game where you said it was sheer panic at the end of that game, but you got it across the goal line anyway.
That play is funny. This could be a Super Bowl preview. People will laugh when you say that. It's not impossible. Jeffrey, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Aaron Rodgers versus Browns defense. We're talking about the Steelers being able to take the next step, right? The defense is going to play against a rookie-led Dylan Gabriel offense, hopefully take advantage. But let's see how Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf, the rest of this offense begins or continues to try to extend their lead in the AFC North. This is a massive game for them. They can keep gaining games on Baltimore. It's a big night for the
It is.
Rodgers.
Look, I mean, everything is set up. We haven't seen the Steelers in forever, right? Because they played an early London game a week ago and then had the bye. So it feels like we've waited a long time since we've watched them. But boy, is it set up for them.
Yes.
The Ravens have fallen apart. They've cratered. And in there, the other two teams in their division have just swapped quarterbacks in what can only be described as a ridiculous trade. In Cincinnati, the Bengals have acquired Joe Flacco from the Browns. So the in-division, in-state trade, Flacco to the Bengals. Jake Browning has been struggling, and that's putting it kindly, in Cincinnati since replacing Joe Burrow. He's thrown 8 interceptions over parts of 4 games. Let's face it, the Bengals have been non-competitive, so they're taking a stab at something here. And Kimberly, you say to yourself, well, what's he going to do? Could Flacco be on the field as soon as this weekend?
He could be on the field. He could start wearing number 16 for the Bengals. And it sounds crazy, except, listen, even the Packers understand this is a veteran quarterback who has led a team to the playoffs. I understand.
Beat the Packers earlier, too.
Exactly. So from the Packers side, they will be prepared to see Joe Flacco. But listen, if you're the Bengals, they had to do something. I know some people are saying, well, how could a 40-year-old quarterback do anything? You have a locker room that you have to answer to. Like Zach Taylor, like this team has been struggling. They're getting nothing offensively. And you got to prove to Jamar, you got to prove to Chase and every other veteran that we're not giving up on a season where there's still a possibility, albeit small, however, we don't know, that Joe Burrow could be back this season. But it all depends if Joe Flacco can keep them afloat.
So we talked about the Cincinnati side of this a little bit earlier. It's a shot, whether it none of us have particularly high hopes for it, but they're trying something. It seems to be the guy they identified, and they've done it. Let's go to the other side of it. The more I've thought about the Cleveland Browns' plan for this season, the less it makes sense to me. Right?
Sure.
They spent their entire summer. You were there, right? You're out there covering everything. They gave all the work to Joe Flacco and what was left over to Kenny Pickett. Then before the season even starts, they trade away Kenny Pickett, and now 5 weeks in, they've traded away Joe Flacco. And they have these 2 rookies that we all knew were going to wind up being the guys you wanted to play this year anyway, and now you got to try and frantically catch them up. Their plan was, we're going to win games with Joe Flacco. Which sometimes, look, I get it, every team goes into a season thinking we're going to win, but maybe you have to have more realistic understanding of your situation. Like, this just strikes me as a situation not well handled.
Well, when you enter training camp, you need everyone to be on board and everyone to expect the best and to work hard and play hard. And if you are putting Dylan Gabriel out there or Shedeur Sanders, I don't know that you get that out of them. They have respect for Joe Flacco. He led them to the playoffs. I think at the beginning of the season, that was the right move to make. What they were doing with Kenny Pickett, I don't know if that was smart, but now it's time to make the transition. So it didn't work out with Joe Flacco. It doesn't mean that they should not have tried with Joe Flacco.
Well, but my pushback on that would be that for everyone who was up early watching this game last weekend, they looked better with Dylan Gabriel immediately.
Yeah, agreed.
He walks in there, gives them some life, gives them some bounce, gives them some hope. He can move I mean, from one side of the field to the other if he has to? Like,
I'm just saying that it wouldn't have been like that. No.
Why not?
It would not have. So getting a bounce means that you have to fall first. Assuming that Dillon Gabriel would have started that season at week 1, having gone through this process, like, that matters. I think it's
you don't think your offense would have been better these first few weeks with him than it was with Joe Flacco?
Here's the issue that Dominic is talking about. What we were looking at was 4 weeks of Joe Flacco, 3 weeks, whatever it was, of Joe Flacco, and it was very bad. Dillon Gabriel wasn't asked to do a whole lot. Let's be clear. Quinshon Judkins was actually powering that offense, that defense. So Dillon Gabriel, they gave him a very small thing, just, hey, work within this structure. He was not asked to take over a game. So if you're starting with that at week 1, I think to Dominique's point, it does look different. That looked
But you could have spent 6 weeks getting him ready for that game, is what I'm saying, instead of spending 6 weeks getting Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco can show up in Cincinnati and be their starter 4 days later. Right. You needed to spend the entire preseason getting him ready to be your first quarterback.
I think, well, look, if you were going to sign Joe Flacco, you could have managed the reps differently. Considering the fact, look, Joe didn't need a whole bunch of training camp reps in order to put out that dismal performance that he put out there. Okay, so you could have spent a lot more time on your young players, or, as you're suggesting, just skip Joe Flacco altogether and just have some future performance projection ability and say, hey, look, this guy, ultimately, we're going to wind up sitting him on the bench anyway. We got to find out what we got with these 2 young guys. Why do we even need him here? And even if you're going to use a watered-down game plan for Dillon Gabriel, what he looked like, what he used last week, that's a hell of a lot better than what they showed during the beginning of the season. And I'm telling you what, to me, Shedeur could do the same type of thing. You knew this year anyway was kind of a transition year. The roster, teams always overestimate where they think they are in their build, Greeny. They always do. They always think that they can win. They're not there yet. I would have rolled with the young quarterbacks from the get-go, too.
I think it's clear what Kevin Stefanski wanted to do. I think the Kenny Pickett angle of him getting hurt in the preseason really threw a monkey wrench into things for this team.
Jeff, go.
I think I'm with Neek on that. I would have started a vet early because you think you have a good enough defense. Maybe you can run the ball a little bit, buy some wins, steal some wins, kind of like the Green Bay thing. When you realize it's not going to happen, why they kept Flacco as 2, didn't just promote Sanders, and then have a plan of, all right, we're going to go 4 weeks with Gabriel, we're going to go 4 weeks with Sanders, and we'll see how it gets, because they do have to plan for the future. Because at the end of this, they don't know if they've gotten any better without the guys actually playing on Sundays. That matters. If you saw, because Flacco wasn't going to be there next year either way, right? Like you think about like the long-term vision of this football team. I think they expected their offense to be better than it was, but I would have went with a trusted vet before I would have done it.
But you know what? See, if I was Kevin Stefanski, if I was management, Joe would have had to have blown me away in training camp.
Yeah.
Meaning he had to have been lighting it up in order for me to go into the season and say, okay, we're going to start with him now. Because if he wasn't, if he looked similar to the way he looked in the regular season,
but I think
I would have pivoted in training camp.
But you know, you and I, but they're going more on past performance. Like
I know, but
they don't believe that there's a cap on their offense with Joe Flacco. They were wrong, but they think that they can put anything in with that bet.
Right.
I think that we forget sometimes, and I'm guilty of it also, is that we can make these practical decisions that don't take into account the emotions of the people that they affect. So walking out there and saying, 3rd-round pick Dillon Gabriel is your quarterback, you don't know what that does to the locker room. A quarterback that you had that has taken you to the playoffs is a different feeling. And maybe it was wrong, but we can't look back on it and act like it's irrational because it didn't work out.
I'm just saying this. Okay, Joe took me to the playoffs before.
Right.
But we also see guys who, look, we have our own eyes too when we're sitting there going, look, he's near the end, dude.
Yeah, for sure.
He's near the end. And he may have looked like.
And they also, we haven't accepted the fact that there's a possibility that there were no good options. So 4 weeks from now, we might be saying that maybe Dillon Gabriel ain't the guy either.
Yeah. That's possible. I don't know. I mean, last season it did so well that Myles Garrett was demanding a trade everywhere he went.
Come on, Greeny. That was about that money.
I'm saying, but the emotions of the situation, that seems like a ship that has long since sailed. We will see. Coming up.